All right. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Keith Reynolds, and this is SMarketPlace, where we cover sales, marketing, and rock and roll. I'm here with my co-host, Tom Dempsey. Tom, welcome.
Welcome to you, Keith. As always, this is a lot of fun to do, and we get some great people on. And I'm with market share growth experts, and have some bourbons behind me right now.
We're in the rock and roll room.
We're in the rock and roll room. They go
Th-
hand
th-
in hand.
This podcast started out, we actually went down to Tom's rock and roll and bourbon room, complete with a Red Rocks Stadium bar from one of the benches out of Red Rocks Stadium. It's a beautiful thing to behold, but we decided to go live and on LinkedIn. So without any further ado, let's bring our guest on. Welcome, uh, Kevin. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, both of you.
So Kevin Perlmutter is a chief brand strategist and has a really cool branding company. Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself, your company, and tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about
sure.
what you're doing?
Thank you so much. I'm Kevin Perlmutter. I'm Chief Brand Strategist and founder of a company called Limbic Brand Evolution. It's a brand strategy and neuromarketing consultancy that I founded just about 5 years ago. And the work I do is all about creating stronger connections between brands and the people that they are trying to do business with.
And tell us a little bit about your journey to get here. You have quite an impressive background in terms of working with some of the top branding uh, companies in the field.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a long time, and I started out many years ago in advertising and realized around 2007 or so that advertising was no longer the place to be. I mean, advertising is about making promises, where things like customer experience is about keeping those promises. And with social media coming about and online reviews taking storm, brands could no longer hide behind bad product experiences and customer experiences with good advertising. So for me, that was a moment to go to the next edge of the frontier, which it was customer experience and brand strategy. And I worked at a place called Interbrand, where I launched their first ever global customer experience practice. I was there for 7 years. And from there, I went to a sonic branding music studio, the next frontier, music and sound for brands. And there I discovered neuroscience. I discovered behavioral science. I actually, in my capacity as chief strategist and chief innovation officer, I created a research capability rooted in neuromarketing. I worked with an outside uh, research company, and we created a capability that allowed us to understand the instinctive emotional responses that people have to brands and to experiences and to any kind of stimulus that gets in front of them, and then how that correlates to the uh, conscious decisions and behaviors that they are going to make from there. And I realized in 2019 or just before that this is missing from traditional brand strategy. Traditional brand strategy does not prioritize emotional insight, nor put it at the center of how brands go to market. And I realized there was an opportunity to go off on my own and bring this insight in and get to the edge of the next frontier, is the way I like to describe it, which is bringing behavioral science thinking into an approach to brand strategy.
Fascinating. Now, as a CEO, why do I care?
Well, you care because you're spending a lot of money on marketing, and sometimes you're going about it in a way that is rooted in old school practices of persuasion based, rooted in persuasion based techniques and rooted in ideas like what's my why, in the absence of understanding your customer, or what I like to call who's your who. And you're spending a lot of money on efforts that are far less efficient and effective than those that take into account the behavioral science understanding of how much our emotions actually impact our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
So when you see a swoosh, when you see an Apple, of course, some of the big ones, et cetera, we're eliciting an intellectual based knowledge of that brand, of that product. Apple, obviously, has its own brand that intellectually I think of in a positive way. But you're saying you take it a step deeper and actually delve into the uh, neuro marketing piece of it, neuro
I
brand.
do. Yeah, I do. In the
So
strategy development, I mean, brands like Apple, Nike, I mean, they have incredible customer experiences. They have incredible products. They're fueled with insight. They spark the inspiration and desire of their customers, and they're doing a fantastic job. There are many brands out there that are having those strong connections with customers and doing a fantastic job. But the large majority of companies, small companies, mid-sized companies, even large companies with high-profile CMOs, are going about it in a way that is rooted in practices that are under leveraging the insights about what their customers
mm,
actually care about. They're
mm,
spending a lot of time um, dealing with what I term trickle down confirmation bias. Big ideas from people with big leadership positions. This is how we've always done it. This is what we know to be true. No, we don't need to do consumer research. No, we don't need to spend time understanding our customers better. We're just going to, tell them how great our products and services are and put that out there in a way that we think is going to attract their attention. But unless you spend time really getting to know your customers and what drives their decisions and their feelings and what their emotional drivers are for the purchases that they make, you're going to miss the moment of connection. You're not going to be able to create what I call limbic sparks, which happen when a brand has you at hello and you want to keep coming back for more.
so you mentioned limbic sparks. If I recall, there are three sort of cornerstones to that: behavioral science, emotional intelligence, and neuromarketing.
Yeah, those are three areas that my business takes into account. So, behavioral science understanding is baked into the Limbic Sparks brand strategy approach that I've created, because it takes into account this incredible influence that our emotions have on the way we go about making decisions about what brands we associate ourselves with and bring into our lives and keep bringing into our lives. Neuromarketing is about applying this to the way we do marketing. Neuromarketing is simply taking an understanding of how the brain works and bringing it into the marketing that we're doing. And then emotional intelligence is a concept that was popularized 20 years ago, and it's typically thought of as relationships between people. But what I'm doing is I'm applying emotional intelligence to the relationship between people and brands. When a brand is more emotionally intelligent, it means it's understanding the people that they're trying to reach, the needs and desires, and that they're then responding appropriately and effectively to those needs with products, services, and marketing and customer experiences that are relevant. And in that case, they are being more helpful and more desired by those customers.
Interesting. It's
So, oh, go ahead,
Well, I
Tom.
was just going to say it's as you're speaking, it's got a correlation to so many different functions within an organization:
Oh,
sales,
absolutely.
marketing, advertising. Branding obviously is key, but customer experience and customer success
Yes.
is a big piece of that. So you can have a brand elicit negative responses too if the customer experience isn't there. So I guess as I'm thinking through what you're saying, every single function within the company needs to be aligned to be able to create this emotional intelligence, this understanding, this neuro understanding from a consumer standpoint as to what your brand actually is.
Absolutely. And the work I do is what I sometimes term as foundational brand strategy.
Mm,
It's connecting the business strategy with the brand, and it's connecting all of that with customer insights and putting together a strategy that's rooted in what people care about, so that you could then put your brand out there in all ways, shapes, and forms, through the messaging that you use, through the customer experiences that you create, through the product and services that you put out there now and in the future. All of these things can be more effective, and you can drive growth for your company if you're doing it in ways that are responsive to the people who you're trying to reach, that are
Yeah.
understanding what they care about. The biggest question that I think about through all phases of work that I do with a client is, why should people care about this brand? And I go to answer that question. And the key word there is not why. The key word is care. Why should people care?
Yeah.
Most people are indifferent to brands around them. Here's the thing: we're not walking around looking to like find brands. We're out there like trying to have a great life, to be more successful, to be happy, to overcome challenges. And if a brand intersects this life that we're having in a relevant way that makes us feel like it's going to make things even better, then you're going to respond to that. You're going to want to bring it in. And if it's successful in delivering that to you, you're going to keep bringing it in for more. And that's what limbic sparks are. Limbic sparks are those moments when you're like, I got to bring this into my life. It speaks to me. It feels like it was designed with me in mind, like they get me. And then it keeps delivering those positive experiences.
You
Gotcha.
know, that is an interesting segue to the comment that we just got on LinkedIn from Jeffrey Brown. And he says, from what I'm hearing, companies make this mistake of focusing on the company and the products in their brand when marketing is all about customers, people. If marketing is instead about people and helping them get emotionally invested in your product, you are connecting with them on a more intimate level.
Absolutely.
Great
Thank you, my
insight.
friend, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this interactivity, and that's spot on. And
Yeah. Yeah,
really,
no, it's so true. I mean, brands are brands are a representation of a brand is a representation of meaning and association that people share. And that can be negative and that can be positive. And
right.
if it's negative, you know, it's because the brand leaders are not doing what it takes to spark desire. They're not doing what it takes to really meet people where they are and understand their needs and deliver things, products, services, and experiences that are actually going to solve those challenges and make them happy campers, right? But if a brand is doing all of those things really well and adapting to our needs as we evolve as people and as society evolves around us, we're going to keep going back to the well. We're going to keep wanting to be a part of that experience and bring it into our life because it creates value and it makes us happy. There's another behavioral science truism that we gravitate away from the things that make us feel bad and we gravitate toward the things that make us feel good.
Mm.
And brands need to keep
Mm.
that in, brand leaders need to keep that in mind when they're putting experiences out there.
Well, that building on Tom's question about uh, getting everybody involved, um, you clearly can't do this, with two people in a conference room. Tell us a little bit about the process that you take people through to get to that foundational level in the brand.
Yeah, it is a collaborative process with my clients, and it always involves their customers. So I can't do my work unless I'm hearing from the customers of my clients, because then I would just be, soaking in the internal confirmation bias, the trickle down confirmation bias that I mentioned earlier. So there are three aspects to my approach to the Limbic Sparks brand strategy approach. Phase one is focus. And focus is this insights discovery phase where I'm learning all that I need to know from my clients about their company. I'm learning from customers, whether directly through one-on-one interviews, which is usually how it happens, sometimes through deep quantitative research, sometimes by scouring customer reviews and testimonials, or usually some combination of two or three of those. And the goal of focus is to get to what I call the shared emotional motivation. What is it that both the brand and its customers are equally passionate about? And then from there, you have one bookend of the brand strategy. And then you go into phase two, which is connect. And Connect is about getting to the brand idea, getting to the positioning statement, understanding how to make sure the personality and voice of the brand is guiding things in a way that's consistent with the authentic brand and how it likes to put things out there. And you have these elements that become the foundations of the brand strategy. Now, let me share one point of difference between a brand idea, or what we all often call a tagline or whatever, for a company, that's different between a Limbic Sparks brand idea or tagline and a traditional brand strategy tagline. A lot of taglines out there are about the brand. Many of them start with the word we. There's a lot of stuff out there where companies are talking about themselves. In order for a brand idea to qualify as a Limbic Sparks brand idea, it needs to be a compelling benefit and invitation. So let me give you an example. I worked with a client, my first client many years ago, my first Limbic client many years ago. I worked with the AT&T Performing Arts Center in Dallas, and they were using traditional brand strategy, like many brands out there. And they invested a lot in great strategy work, and they had a wonderful tagline, and they were spending money on marketing, but it wasn't working as effectively for them as they would have hoped. And their tagline was staging the amazing. And they were, by the way. They have this incredible campus in Dallas. They have these wonderful performances, this high-class white glove service that's really quite special for anybody who experiences it. But they also serve many other parts of Dallas. They have families and school districts where they're subsidizing arts education programs and emerging artists. And a lot of Dallas, they felt at the time, didn't feel like it was a brand for them. They didn't recognize how they fit into this picture because the marketing was talking about staging the amazing, and that kind of directed them to talk about how wonderful everything they were doing was. And it seemed to be missing the mark with certain consumers. And we evolved that to a benefit and invitation that represented how people actually feel when they experience that campus of arts, performing arts, whether they are wealthy or not wealthy, families or business people, it doesn't matter. And we transitioned from staging the amazing to yours to discover. And for the last 4.5 years, all of the marketing for the AT&T Performing Arts Center is not built around how amazing they are. It's built around inviting people in to discover all of the things that they can discover on this campus.
Hmm. We just got an interesting comment too, and it says, well, back from Jeffrey Brown, I find it difficult to change people's beliefs. If customers already don't believe in your brand, how do you fix that?
I mean, it depends on the magnitude of the problem and where it's stemming from, for sure. I mean, if it's stemming from a founder who is putting really nasty things into the world, that might be an insurmountable problem. If it's stemming from poor customer experiences, it might be fixable, and over time you can overcome maybe the negative equity that exists out there by fixing those challenges. Sometimes people are just not connecting with a brand, not because they're doing something wrong, but because they're not being put out there in a way that's as relevant as they could be. There's an opportunity. Maybe the brand is doing fine, like fine, but it could be doing a lot better if it was actually connecting people in a way that spoke to their emotional drivers. And that's what I help my clients do. I help them uncover their emotional drivers. Oh, and to cap off the last piece, we have focus and connect. The third piece of the puzzle is evolve, which is where we take that brand strategy and we apply it to messaging. We apply it to the visual identity. We apply it to customer experiences, how the product portfolio is described. And you can go from a place where your brand is not as effective as you'd like it to be, where you're eager for more people to understand, appreciate, and desire your brand. You can go from that place to having a foundational brand strategy that makes everything you do more effective and more meaningful to the people you're trying to reach. You can create those limbic sparks if you're actually connecting with them in a way that is relevant to what they care about.
And you back it up in what you're doing every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can back it up with what you're doing every day. In fact, the work I do most of the time is not corrective for a brand. It's actually bringing out the best aspects of that brand in a way that they haven't thought of to do before. I'll give you one more quick example. I've recently worked with a company called Blue Ridge, and Blue Ridge is in the supply chain management space. They have a SaaS software platform, and there are a lot of competitors in that space. And they've been doing a wonderful job. Their company is growing. They have customers that absolutely love them for many reasons, but their marketing was lagging a little bit behind where the brand actually sits in its customers' minds. And what we've recently done, I worked with them, I interviewed many of their customers, I scoured their customer reviews and really found what makes that brand different. And we took them from a place where they were speaking very similar category language to the 20 other competitors in the space that have similar but not exactly the same offerings. And we found that one of the things that separates them is this unmatched partnership that they have with their customers, because they have a whole team of people that supports and coaches customers through the life of their relationship with the product that is different from the rest of the category. And then they also help them eliminate guesswork and maximize inventory performance. And ultimately, we got them to they've just launched a new brand idea, which is Be Supply Chain Invincible. They're taking a category leading position with an idea that is all about helping the people who use their product and who manage warehouses and have to control inventory levels to help them feel invincible, that they always are going to have the right answers. They're always going to have reliable information, and they're going to help their company not overspend on inventory and not be out of stock when it's the wrong time to be out of stock.
That's fascinating. They're like the heroes. Those people that they serve are the heroes that make our economy chug along.
Yeah, and in that industry, if you don't have Blue Ridge at your fingertips to work with, you probably are wrong most of the time in your predictions about inventory levels. When you're managing 50,000 SKUs in a warehouse, you're going to have too much of something and too little of something else at all times. But when you have the right software and the right team helping you maximize the use of that software at your fingertips, then you are going to be right much more often. And what we've identified for them is how they make their customers feel. And we brought that to the forefront of how they now put their brand out there, because guess what? There are probably other people out there who want to feel invincible, and now they know where they can feel that way.
That's really interesting too, that the topic of in your example of having a crowded space and having a lot of me too's. How do you separate yourself in a situation like that? I think of laptop computers as an example. Yes, there's Apple, Lenovo, et cetera, but there's a gazillion other ones too that exist that don't really have a name for themselves other than you're competing on cost.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in that position. You want to be in a position of strength where you actually, as you said, have the hearts and minds of your customers. So that's certainly part of the path to separating yourself from all the other Me Too brands that exist in a particular space.
Absolutely. What I find most often, and I find this especially in B2B work, is that so many brands are commoditized in their space. And what really separates them is not the products and services and the features and the bells and whistles and all that. What separates them is their style of relationship with their customers and the experiences that their customers have with their brand. And it's those unique qualities that that separate brands. And here's a little thing that I've learned along the way after working with a couple dozen clients over the last 5 years. What I've learned is that when I ask my clients, why do people choose your brand? And when I ask their customers, why do you choose this brand? I often get different answers. And the answers that my clients tell me are typically more rooted in their talking points and their proof points and their reasons to believe and their product and services and features. And what I hear from their customers is how it makes them feel to have this product or this service in their world. So the way they feel is what they tell me is the reason why they choose this brand. And my clients are like, wow, we take that for granted, or we didn't realize that, or we kind of knew that, but we didn't think it was, as important. And it's, again, going from advertising persuasion era brand strategy techniques to Limbic Sparks brand strategy, which puts emotional insight at the center of how brands spark desire.
And isn't it amazing? When in doubt, ask the customer.
Every time you're going to hear it, you're going to hear what you need to hear, whether you like it or not. And if it's a great, I mean, Blue Ridge is an incredible brand. They have a review site with like 80 reviews, and they have a 4.8 rating, and all 4s and 5s, and clients absolutely love them. What we did was we took information about why they love them, and we made it the center focus for how they're going to attract new customers.
That's great.
So how do you see that play out? We're going to wind down here and get to the fun part here in a minute. But so how do you see that play out when you go from one of many to now having a clear differentiation based on what people say and feel about you?
Well, people are attracted to brands based on the way it makes them feel. We gravitate toward the things that make us feel good. And if you're a brand that's out there with generic language or language that isn't rooted in customer insight, it's gonna be kind of, you're gonna pass it by. It's gonna be maybe a little irrelevant. You're not gonna care. But if you see something that is like, wow, that is exactly what I've been searching for, that's exactly how I want to feel, then you're going to pay more attention to it. I'm not saying you're going to close the sale when they see a tagline, but I'm saying your ears are perked, and you're going to learn, you're going to look for more information.
And also when it comes to value, they're probably willing to spend more too for that.
I guess so. I would think so. I mean, I know for me, when I'm contemplating a purchase, if I'm spending way too much time focusing on what it costs, then I'm probably not as interested as I should be. And when I don't think about the cost and say, all right, I'm willing to spend what it's going to cost, or I'm going to get this, but I hope it's not too much, I mean, that's when they have me hooked.
Yeah, right, right.
So in the big segue here,
Yeah,
t- this is interesting how what we're talking about relays over to the music industry, right? Because music is all about an emotional experience,
Absolutely.
and what we love to do is just go through all the different intricacies of how music uh, overlays what sales and marketing is all about, right? It's pulling that together so that you can sell records, you can do licensing deals, you sell merch, you've got to get butts and seats at concerts, and you're doing it with a highly emotional product.
Yeah.
Um, so, it, beyond that analogy, tell us a little bit about your musical journey and what kind of rock and roll you like.
Well, I last year I saw a bunch of concerts last year. It was so much fun, and actually I saw concerts last year of nearly all the top bands that come up on my Spotify list of
Did you?
top bands. It was pretty cool. One band that I saw last year, which was great. I went with my daughter to the Beacon Theater, and we saw John Mellencamp. I remember buying American Fool on cassette when it came out, and now seeing him that many years later was absolutely incredible.
Hmm.
Last year, I saw the Foo Fighters and Weezer at a festival in Asbury Park, which was absolutely incredible. Foo Fighter and Weezer are two of my favorite bands that I listen to a ton. Weezer's not one of my favorites, but I listen to it a ton. Foo Fighters is one of my favorite bands right now. And another band that I got to see in a wonderful small setting in Sayreville, New Jersey, was Mammoth WVH. And I have been a Van Halen fan for decades.
Yeah.
And now for the last 3 or 4 years, I am a Wolfgang Van Halen fan. And Mammoth WVH was absolutely incredible to see. So lucky to see them in a small venue, like 1,500 people, because this guy is blowing up and he's not going to be playing those small venues for long. So that was an amazing concert to see. And one of my good friends from high school actually drove like 4 hours to come and see it with me. And it was just so much fun.
Awesome. What 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 was it like seeing all that power in such a small venue?
I have this great photo because it was a small venue. So like they didn't have a lot of backstage room for stuff. So I went around the bar to the side of the stage and was going to the men's room, which was like literally next door to the stage. And all of a sudden I see this rack of EVH guitars, like this, and it was like all Eddie Van Halen branded guitars. They were all Wolfie's guitars, and you're looking at them going like, and I like went to the middle of the bar and I got my friend. I'm like, you gotta come see his guitars. It was so cool. And then I took a picture of it and I sent it to my family, and they're like, "Are you backstage?" I'm like, "No, I'm side stage." I mean, it was just it was awesome. It was so cool to see that show and the other ones that I saw last year. It was a lot of fun.
So that season's coming up again. You got anything on the slated for this
You know,
summer?
I don't yet. Like, I'm always kind of like, I always buy the tickets a little too late and spend too much on them. So I don't have anything lined up yet, but I definitely hope to be seeing some concerts this year. Haven't figured out who yet, but I can't wait.
In all the concerts you've been to, is there any one that stands out, or is there any experience that you've had at a concert stand out?
I saw Bon Jovi many years ago, and he is just an amazing performer on stage. That was a wonderful concert. Billy Joel is one of my all-time favorite artists. I've seen Billy Joel about 10 times over the last 30 years. I mean, like, I love Billy Joel concerts. You know, I can't really think of one that just super stands out.
Sure.
I love that I get to see some of my favorite bands, and I've been going to see them for years. So I wish I went to more concerts, but I've committed to going to more, and I started last year. So last year was a big concert year for me, and I hope to continue that.
Good. Well, we help you do a bunch this year. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, what was your first concert?
My first, oh my goodness. I don't know. I think it was like Kool and the Gang at Six
All
Flags.
right.
I have no idea. It was a long time ago. But I saw Van Halen a couple of times early on. I saw Pat Benatar once at Jones Beach, although she was promoting a blues album and didn't do any of her classics, so that was a bit disappointing.
Oh, interesting.
You know, there were a bunch back then. I can't remember the order of them, but Billy Joel was probably one of the first. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I got to see Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. That was one of my highlights.
Yeah. His 100th show is being broadcast any day now. I forget what the exact date is, but
That's
I think
right.
it's CBS or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, really cool. The music part of this interview is fantastic. It gets me going, and it's also so wonderful to be able to share with you all the details of the work I do. Thank you so much for having me on this, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, we're really excited to have you on, and then also to share it out with what we call the podcast ecosystem, right? So it's podcasting, I think, is going through a major shift right now. It's not about getting a million downloads, but it's taking this content and cutting it up and sharing it in a very strategic way to the 500 or 5,000 people that you need to make your numbers this year, and to be, micro targeting that. And really, it's the brand execution. What I always loved about our conversations is, what I do is take that work that you've done and then find ways to put it out there in a methodical way, so that you're sharing content with people at different stages of where they are, so that they're ready to hear your message.
Yeah. And I love the intersection of what you and I both do, because I don't put content out there. I'm not a marketing person. I'm a brand strategist, but I create this huge foundation of content and messaging and foundational brand identity visually or through customer experiences. I create all of this foundation, and then it's so wonderful to see when talented people like yourself put it out into the world, and it starts getting the attention that we anticipate it will get. It's so cool.
One of the hard things that I find is that as soon as the word marketing comes up, I get labeled as the pretty pictures and messaging guy. And what I'm really about is consulting around inbound marketing, so that your content is part of a flow, and it's planned in a way that as you publish content, you have, like Nielsen, you have feedback to know how to make that media perform more. And while we're not trying to sell an advertisement with our content and our media, we are trying to get a lead, and there's a value transfer in that. And so we can do strategic planning and projections and try and shape the future based on that data. And that's a lot different than coming up with the pretty picture or the messaging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much value in what you do and how you create effective plans for getting people the notice that they need to, the recognition that they need to get, and the feedback they need to get, and the leads they need to get. It's what you do is beyond what I do, and I'm in awe of people like you who do that well.
And the feeling is mutual, my friend. Well, thank you. And Tom, thank you. Always great to plan these and come up with the questions to have an interesting conversation. You're an amazing talent at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is always a blast.
Excellent.
Okay, well, we will sign off. And Kevin, thanks a million for being on this week, and look forward to sharing it out in the coming days.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll see you both soon.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
All right, everybody, make it a great day.